crisis rocking the Edo State House of Assembly is clearly far from over. Few hours after the dramatic closure of the Assembly complex for renovation, 3 members of the Assembly and the 14 lawmakers-elect gather for a sit-in at a different location in Benin City. It starts with the inauguration of the members-elect by Deputy Clerk of the House, Samuel Efezokai.
The Speaker.
Done with that, the member representing Ovia Southwest constituency, Honorable Sunday Agedo, moves a motion for the impeachment of the Speaker and his deputy.
I therefore move for the impeachment of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker as already stated. I so move.
It's then seconded and ruled upon by the Speaker pro tempore, Honorable Emmanuel Agbaje.
I, Honorable Emmanuel Agbaje, member representing Akoko Edo constituency 2, sitting as Speaker pro tempore, do hereby declare that all actions of Honorable Frank Akumere Okiye, particularly the wrongful and illegal declaration of the seat of 14 members as vacant, is null and void and of no effect whatsoever.
With the Speaker, Francis Okiye, and his deputy removed, a new Speaker, Honorable Victor Edoror, is elected, with Emmanuel Agbaje as deputy.
Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The new Speaker assumes his new role and in that capacity asks the police to help put in place a peaceful atmosphere where lawmakers can effectively perform their functions.
I hereby call on the city of Edo State to make sure that the Edo State Assembly complex is free of hoodlums tomorrow morning, because we are going to be going there to sit.
The sit-in is then adjourned till Friday the 7th of August, with the legislators hoping to return to the Assembly complex for its next session.
So there you go, some of the developments that played out yesterday. But that wasn't all, because after that, the governor did address the state, and here is part of what he said.
I want to salute the resolve of all well-meaning Edo people in standing up to thwart the evil plans of these undemocratic elements who are bent on perpetrating an assault on our democracy by the purported inauguration in a private residence. These events portend great danger to the safety and security of our polity. It had all the hallmarks of an attempted coup d'etat. The people of Edo State rose as one to prevent the desecration of our democracy. It is, however, worrisome that certain persons are willing to plunge the society into avoidable anarchy and conflict just to satisfy their illegitimate objectives. These acts are tantamount to treason, contrary to the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution. Be rest assured, dear people of Edo State, that our government will take necessary steps to defend the rule of law and democratic ideals. Any person or group of persons who set out to test our will in this regard will meet with the full wrath of the law.
So there you go, the perspective of the governor. But let's bring in Honorable Victor Edorors. He joins us this morning on the program. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, I don't know if you heard the governor speaking there, but all this event of yesterday, leaving Nigerians, even Edo citizens, just wondering how all of these things will eventually end, if it will not lead to violence ultimately. But let's get your thoughts about all of these things happening, particularly in light of what the governor has just said. Well, of course, you expected that he was not going to recognize you as Speaker of Edo State House of Assembly. How do you respond to that?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for having me, Chairman. The truth of the matter is that it is not the duty of governor of Edo State to recognize the Speaker or the House of Assembly. If you check the organs of government in the states, the the legislature is even the number one. And it is designed like that because the legislature make laws for the states and make law for the government of the states. And it is not the duty of the governor to say, I recognize this or I don't recognize this. In the Edo State House of Assembly, we have 24 members. And if you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria very well, Section 91, it stated very well, before a House of Assembly can start at all, you must have minimum of 24 and have maximum of 40. That means when you have 23 seated, inauguration cannot take place. We have passed that now. As we speak, yes, they said they went to court to try to stop the process of the National Assembly doing their necessary, carrying out their necessary function as concerned to House of Assembly that are having problem of this nature. But we have, members have come together, about 17 of us, and we have done the needful. In our House rule, it is expressly stated that when the House convenes and the Speaker or Deputy Speaker refuse to come, the House will elect the Speaker pro tempore among them to continue the process to avoid vacuum. And this is what we have done, and the people of Edo State are happy with us, and we have moved on. Whether the state is at peace now, it is in the mind of people. The popular opinion is that the people have taken the lead and things are working fine. I want to erase an impression. What is actually, I believe, is holding the governor to a fearful situation is that he's believing, or he has been so much hypnotized to the extent that he believes that we are out to impeach him. We are not going to impeach anybody. All we want to do is that the 24th constituency of this state must be represented, and we must make law for our people. Dividends of democracy must be channeled to the doorstep. Yes, we moved away from the House of Assembly yesterday to avoid anarchy. In this state, they don't have members more than us. We have the APC have more members more than
Honorable Edoror, so just a minute. We'll come to some of those aspects of the events that are played out. But in some part of that, the governor's briefing address yesterday, he referenced section 105.3 of the Constitution. And in that section, it clearly stipulates that subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the person elected as governor of a state shall have power to issue a proclamation for the holding of the first session of the House of Assembly of the state concerned immediately after he is being sworn in, or for its dissolution as provided in this section. Now, it says that the matter has gone to court. The court has pronounced that he has validly issued that proclamation and there cannot be another one. So, upon what would you rely on convening those members who have not participated in any legislative function and then swearing them in to then elect you as Speaker?
What we have done yesterday is upon the proclamation that he has issued. It's a continuation. What we have done is that he issued the proclamation that brought about that House of Assembly that is in existence. It is a continuation of that House of Assembly that brought about our swearing in now. I want to ask a question. For example, if by peradventure a member dies or he resigns, does it mean the governor will issue another proclamation for that member to be sworn in? It's not so. It's a thing that must be done once, which he has done. And after that, he has no business in the House.
But as it is now, the point is, they say that first is that those members who you sworn in have never participated in any legislative function. So how come that they all of a sudden are being sworn in to carry out those functions? In fact, they said that their seats are no longer available.
If you can recall, among us, 5 of us were among the 12 that was sworn in before, based on this proclamation. It is those 5 people now that came together to have a Speaker pro tempore that ushered us in and got us sworn in as members of the House. After being sworn in, we became legitimate members of Edo State House of Assembly, and we elected the leadership, where I emerged as the Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. And in this regard, there is no way a 7-member can override 17 members. Yes, purportedly they made an attempt to declare a seat vacant, and we went to court. And in court, it was expressly stated that INEC cannot conduct an election to replace members because they do not have, the Speaker do not have right to declare our seat vacant. So it is on that. If they think that what we have done is not right, they should go to court and we argue it out in court. We have done the right thing, and we are very right with the proceedings and the tenets of the law as we speak right now.
Honorable Edoror, I'm just wondering if the law provides for a continuation of a proclamation, just as you talked about the other time. Yes, you've argued that if anything happens and a seat is declared vacant, the Speaker can do that same thing. But does the law provide for mass swearing in a continuation, just as you have talked about?
Yes, if you check our House Rule, Section 72, it is expressly stated, Speaker pro tempore can act when the Speaker and Deputy Speaker is not in the session. The House is of 24 members. And if this, let us even say the 12 members of them that were sworn in, 5 of them were there. And the Speaker refused to, if you look at Edo State for a very long time, no legislative business. They've not been sitting. And about how many, more than 80% of the constituencies were not represented. Out of them, about 3 of them left there, 5 of them left them to come and say, yes, what is happening in Edo State is not a thing that must continue. We must do the right thing. And if you don't know, the Attorney General of this country, a man who is saddled with the responsibility of interpreting the laws of this land, wrote a position on this paper, empowering the IG and the DGSS to create a conducive atmosphere for us to sit, because Section 91, Section 90, Section 101, 103, and 109 must be fulfilled. That's why we did what we did, and we are perfectly on course.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Just to be clear, you know, from the visuals that have been going around as to the proceedings that took place yesterday, the picture of the mace that was showed, one wonders, where was that mace gotten from? Is that the mace that is used for proceedings or another mace? Because we understand that the presence of a mace, the right mace, you know, gives credence to any proceedings of the House.
Mr. If you ask Speaker after speakers of the Edo State House of Assembly, you will know that, and if you look at your videos, you will know that that mace is the real mace of the Edo State House of Assembly, the silver mace. And that is our mace. Those workers are our workers. And what we have done, it is not the House that make Edo State House of Assembly. It is the members who represent constituencies that make up House of Assembly. It is not the House. It's the content of the House. You mean if the governor decides to block the gate and decides to be bringing granite on the day where we want to sit, you mean we should not sit? Or are you saying that we should encourage anarchy? I must tell you, the Commissioner of Police and the Director of SSS, they commended us yesterday. They said they have never seen wonderful people like us. If we want, as 17 members, we can overtake and overrun 7 members every time. We decided to say for the peace of the state, because the election that is forthcoming is a thing that we must win, and we will win it without working so hard. So we don't want anything that will disturb it. What I can see they are saying, they are doing, they want a situation whereby a state of anarchy will be seen in Edo, an election will be postponed, a lot of things will be happening, they will continue to hold sway to government. But they are failing to understand that the Constitution is sacrosanct, and the governor, there is no way the governor can exceed November 12th. And I kept reiterating, he should not be afraid. We are ready to work with him. We'll give him quality legislation, a very compassionate arrangement that will make him happy and deliver the dividends of democracy within the remaining few months. Of course, he knows very well that he can't win the election, But he should quietly work, arrange himself, and prepare for a better future for himself. But aside that, Edo people have decided he is not fit to be our governor, and he should pack his load and go. But I will do that by September 19. Very clear.
Okay, let's bring in Adase Enwanta. He is the public affairs advisor to Governor Obaseki. He's also a lawyer. Well, good morning and thank you for joining us today. Well, you heard Honorable Edoror there saying first he's the speaker. He's been elected by the majority of the members, and that you don't have anything to worry about the governor, that he will cooperate, give you quality legislation, and ensure things work well.
It's quite unfortunate that we find ourselves in what can best be described as a banana republic. Nollywood has never had this. It's unfortunate for individuals whose seats have been declared vacant. A matter that is in court, they went to court to seek judicial interpretation of their vacant seats, only for us to hear that they met at the residence of the APC, the embattled APC candidate, Ize Yamu. They assumed a retired deputy clerk from retirement. The man's face is not shown in that viral video. They went to the premises of the Edo State House of Assembly. The symbol of the authority of that house at the roof, they removed it, or they even went as far as bringing one from Imo. They could not do that. They imported a mace from Imo with the assistance of the Supreme Court approved governor of that state. And unfortunately, when you look at the chronicle of events, there was a judgment of the Federal High Court, that is the South-South, vacation judge, gave a judgment on the proclamation, that the proclamation was properly done, that nobody should interfere with that proclamation that was issued. My question now is, on what authority was that house conveyed? They said they impeached both the speaker and the deputy, meaning that the man that was initially impeached as deputy speaker has admitted that he was impeached as deputy speaker. The house was adjourned to reconvene on Monday, and what they have done is a coup d'etat on democracy. A coup d'etat on democracy. If they're in court, why not allow the court to decide? These persons have been away for more than 1 year. Their seats were declared vacant. If tomorrow a group of persons takes over the government of Nigeria, would the president allow this? This is a coup d'etat. It offends the provisions of Section 1 sub 2 that says no group of individuals can take over any part of the government of Nigeria. And it's quite unfortunate that Edorors is making reference to the Commissioner of Police. Is the Commissioner of Police not aware that these individuals met in Izayamu's house? Is that the venue of the Edo State House of Assembly? Is he not aware that the original mace is still within the premises of the Edo State House of Assembly? That they imported a mace from Imo? That is a rape on democracy. It is an insult to the collective will of Edo people. That individuals who have no authority can take over a part of the government of the state, and the Attorney General of the Federation is quiet.
Mr. Edoror, I beg your pardon, Mr. Enwanta, do you have it on good authority that that mace was imported from Imo? How do you confirm that?
Can they tell us, in all honesty, where they got their mace from? Because we have security reports that, of course, there were thugs that came from Imo who were camped in Oshomele's house along GRA. And unfortunately, that mace is from Imo. The Edo State House of Assembly has its mace. And they say they broke into the premises to collect the mace. The answer is no. So where did they get that mace from? The international community, they are watching. They are making a mockery of democracy in Nigeria. This is not democracy. On what authority did they convene the house? Can a group of persons go to their village and convene the National Assembly?
They are relying, they say that they have majority.
Their seats not vacant.
What about when they say they have majority of the members?
The matter is in court. The matter is in court. They are not members of the house. Their seats have been declared vacant. On what authority did they meet yesterday? Did they have a quorum? The House of Assembly has a clear quorum. You have a man that was impeached as deputy speaker, then another member joined him. There is 14 people whose seats have been declared vacant. We have a democracy. I want now to make this whole thing look so cheap. Even the PDP members are in court, asking the court to declare them the rightful persons to occupy those seats.
Let's get Honorable Edoror to respond to those issues that you raised pointedly. Just hold on, Mr. Enwanta. Well, Honorable Edoror, first, the matter being in court, I believe you went to court to ensure that justice is done. But as it is now, he's pointedly saying, first, this is tantamount to self-help. You're taking matters into your hands, and that mace it's not the mace for the house, and that it was gotten from Imo. Is that right?
Well, Chabalin, thank you very much. I don't really like any issues with people who allowed what entered their pocket to becloud their sense of reasoning. As a matter of fact, I like issue-based discussion. I'm going to discuss issues. I won't discuss all those frivolous things. You see, the House of Assembly, first of all, we did not meet in pastor's house. We paid for a center, and maybe I didn't know, I would have come with the receipts. We paid because since we cannot hold anything in somebody's house, we are going to hold our sessions. If we cannot access the House of Assembly, the security agents have given us time lag. They are going to clear the place for us to take over. And before we take over, the business of legislation must continue. That is why we went to pay for a center. That's why we went to pay for a center, and we are using it. See, the IMO, what has IMO got to do with those House of Assembly? Chambali, just look at your videos. Just look back. You will discover that maze, you will see it. It's a product of the House of Assembly. And that deputy clerk is a deputy clerk in the House of Assembly. The issue is what we are talking about. Let us face facts.
What about the part that says the matter is in court? Why resort to self-help?
Yesterday, members, out of the 5 members who were inaugurated, the Speaker pro tempore emerged, and the Speaker pro tempore made mention that the Speaker did not consult, the then Speaker did not consult with members. He made pronouncement, and it was illegally made. For that, our seats were recovered, and we were sworn in. I think what is important is that democracy is a matter of number.
Yeah, but I need you to address that particular question. What becomes of the court case?
The court is still there. They can, if they feel what we have done is not right, they should approach the court. And we are here to come with them. And we will not hide. What is important is that we are telling them and we are appealing to them. We are all colleagues. We are not enemies. They should come. Let's sit together. Nobody is born to be a speaker. If tomorrow I am no longer accepted by members, I should be removed. If he is now finding favor, in the minds of members, he should be returned as speaker. It's a matter of numbers. He can always come. We will work together. And moreover, he's my brother. I will not even have the guts, as I speak now, to declare a seat vacant. And because the only way a seat can be declared vacant is when you move from the party that brought you to office to another party. And as we speak, none of them has left APC. We are APC members. They are only just supporting
Honorable Edoror, let me
have not declared that they are not PDP. If they have, let them tell us so that we know what to do.
Okay, earlier on in your response, you mentioned or you referenced the security agencies, and you said that they were meant to clear a place for you to hold your sitting, and when that wasn't forthcoming, you had to move and get the hall, which you said you rented to hold that proceeding. So are you saying that the security agencies were aware of that sitting which you had? Were they in the know?
Of course. They were duly communicated. And you see what the governor and the deputy did yesterday, they did have people who are preaching that people are bringing hoodlum to the state. You can see them yesterday by themselves. They walked to the House of Assembly with talks. Imagine the governor boldly. If you have immunity, do those talks have immunity? I want to believe that the police were overwhelmed, but we have cautioned them. They should, as a matter of fact, subsequently prepare themselves very well to make sure that the hoodlums do not overrun them. Because if that continues to happen, it will be a very serious disencouragement to the members of the public. So as far as we are concerned, everything is fine. We are moving on. Today we are going to sit for the first time, although we experience quality legislation.
All right, let's go to Mr. Enwanta. Now, he has said they're going to sit today, and we saw that the meeting they had with the Commissioner of Police asking that they clear the House of Assembly and allow them sit today. And he has said that the security agencies were in the know from the get-go about this particular sitting. How does that hit you, really?
As a constitutional lawyer, I feel so pained when a person who was elected but refused to go to the House for over 1 year, his seat was declared vacant, himself and his co-travelers, they went to court, asking the court to adjudicate. The question is, what has changed? He uses a phrase, take over, that we went to take over. A member elect whose seat has been declared vacant. An implication of that is he's no longer a member of the House of Assembly. Even INEC was to take steps to organize elections. They took INEC to court. Is it that we don't have hope in the judiciary? Is it that we have a system where anybody checks laws into their hands? I paint a scenario. Atiku was in court to challenge the process that led to the emergence of Buhari. Did Atiku take over the reins of power from Buhari while he was in court? When we say rule of law, in every democracy, we have set rules that must be followed. It's like using the rules in basketball to play football. You don't do that in a democracy. He makes reference to the police. Is it not saying that what they did has a tacit approval? Because we are aware that a member of the presidency actually told them that they could go with some set of federal SARS, and I think that is the SGM, Boss Mustafa, a member of ACN. That is what they are doing, is the internal crisis of the APC that they have now taken into the politics of Edo State, into the peace of Edo State. In a democracy, it is not allowed. Once they're in court, you allow the court to decide. For them to have come in the manner they did yesterday, they could not gain entrance to the House. They now went to a private residence. With his own mouth, he has said that they rented a hall. Though we know that it was in Israel's house, but for them to have rented a hall, it means that they don't even have the authority to do what they are doing. For it to have the sitting of the House, there must be a resolution. So what authority? That's the question. We don't want a situation where this thing repeats at the National Assembly, where a group of persons come to say they are not the National Assembly of Nigeria. It means that will be the end of democracy in Nigeria. If the Attorney General of the Federation keeps quiet on this, you can be sure that democracy is dead in Nigeria.
But you also heard him say, Mr. Enwanta, you also heard him say that 5 of the members of the House that were hitherto, sworn in are part of the people in this new group of people. As a matter of fact, he also said, just one moment. He also said that the Speaker Extempore was one of those people who were, sworn in at the time, and consequently, that one made the declaration and said that the Speaker, at that time, did not do the proper thing, and that is what he had come to do.
Let me tell you exactly what transpired. A day before that invasion, that's the day before yesterday, the Deputy Speaker was impeached, right? And he was one of those persons who have been coming for sittings that made the number 10. Himself and one other fellow, Musa Okumbo, left the group of 10. So you had just 2 members joining the 14 whose seats were declared vacant. So those 2 members they are referring to were the 2 members that were originally inaugurated, whose seats were declared vacant. Those 2 persons are in court over their seats that are vacant. So can 2 persons whose seats are vacant constitute part of the Edo State House of Assembly? The answer is no. So these people are just trying to be fraudulent with figures. And at the end of the day, they have a matter in court. What happens to the matter in court? Can everybody in Nigeria who has a matter in court now resort to self-help? The answer is no, because it was a former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Fatai Akanda-Williams, that said, in a situation where the rule of law is jettisoned, anarchy becomes the sole beneficiary. So it means that a man can come tomorrow to Sadebe Avenue and say he's the governor of Edo State.
Okay.
And that is what the government should condemn. The government of Nigeria must condemn this brazen attack on democracy.
All right.
Otherwise, we'll be setting a precedent for lawlessness.
Let me bring in Honorable Edoror here. Just hang on a minute. So, Honorable Edoror, if you take a look at Section 108, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, it clearly states that nothing in this section shall empower anybody who is not a member of the State House of Assembly to be entitled to participate in House proceedings or vote in the House session. Now, doesn't this mean that those original 5 members have no legal right to allow members whose seats have been declared vacant to participate in this in that proceedings?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, I don't think that my brother has the facts. And from his statement, they are not even consistent. You see, I can name the members who were formally inaugurated and who were in the sitting with us. The Speaker pro tempore, which he failed to mention, Honorable Emmanuel Agbaje, was he not member of the 10? Honorable Uyi Ikosweyi, was he not member of the 12 inaugurated? Honorable Kaka Eric, was he not member of the 12 that was inaugurated? 5 members out of the 12 inaugurated, which out of their illegality is even a quorum for sitting. They sat. They corrected the statement. The Speaker pro tempore was elected, and our seats were recovered. We were sworn in. I do not even know what they are talking about. If you check the court, you can recall that Honorable Kiye, the former speaker, once said he did not declare the seat of 14 members vacant, that he only declared the seat of those 2 members who refused to come to sitting vacant. And if you have them in another forum, they will say 14. They are not even consistent. And in court, the matter is there and the court is still there. If you feel what we have done...
Isn't it the same thing that is applying here? Because if you went to court to determine or your content, you want to determine some of these issues that you highlighted here. So to that extent, those members of which the reason why you went to court, if the court has not dispensed with that case, how then are they allowed to participate in the event that occurred?
Evil courts gives room for settlement outside courts. If you are going to Lagos, for instance, you decide to follow west, and it's shorter, the bearing is in the north, and you take bearing and get to Lagos. What is important if you are in Lagos? As we speak now, members that we took to court, you can recall even the case we have in court, the person that instituted the case against us, Honorable Yakini Diaye, the deputy speaker then, is part of us. That means the case they even have in court is dead on arrival. And I'm sure Yakini will go and withdraw that case, and we will have no case in court. So I feel...
Okay, so the case has not been withdrawn.
The case is dead on arrival. It's dead on arrival. If somebody who took a case to court is now against the case in court, is the case not dead?
I mean, from my understanding, Honorable Edoror, you need to approach the court to withdraw that case before the case becomes dead. Because you approach the court initially to say, well, I have a case and I need you to look into it. So how is the case dead on arrival? Are you saying the court is aware of this?
I even have it on a good footing that the case has been withdrawn.
Now, your Order 72 was talking, if you could reference it, it's talking about it empowers the House and the Speaker pro tempore to, no, it empowers the House to elect a Speaker pro tempore in the absence of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker. And so the question will then be, they wonder if this was complied with, and upon which ruling, or where did this meeting, how is it continuing? Was it adjourned? How did this continue? Who issued notice of this meeting? So processes here, they say this is clearly an abuse of proceedings.
Mr. Shebali, am I not on channels now? Am I not on channels? Am I in your station right now? I'm in my house, and I'm in channels talking to the world. That is how the parliamentary arrangement is. It is the constituents of the assembly that makes assembly, not the buildings. If the buildings are destroyed, do you mean the legislation for those states will not continue? It will continue. You said something about section 72, removal of speaker and deputy speaker. In subsection 2A, you say if it is the speaker and his deputy that are being accused, a speaker pro tempore should be appointed. That is exactly what happened. Nothing less. QED.
No, there are conditions precede certain conditions definitely will precede these actions. Now, when you say I'm here, you're there, yes, that can happen with our own circumstances here. But you have rules of proceedings because you were tempted to go to the assembly where the hallowed chamber is to conduct your proceedings because you recognize that that is where proceedings should hold. But when that couldn't happen, you got to hall. Does your rule allow for that?
Thank you. Thank you. The House of Assembly, as we speak now, following what they deposited, is under construction. And as we speak, they move from House of Assembly to Government House. Is Government House a Edo State House of Assembly? Exactly what they have done is what we have done. They are members representing their constituencies. We are members representing our constituencies. So the majority is the one that will take the day. And my advice for them is to let us come together and sit. Even if they don't like where we are sitting, we can have a neutral point where we can sit, all of us come together. If they feel I cannot be speaker, let them move a motion. It will be voted for. The speaker will emerge. If
Edoror, you know, this amounts, isn't this double speak? You're asking them to go to court, but you have a case in court and you resorted to self-help.
Well, to us, you know, this is like beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. To us, it's not self-help. But if they feel it's self-help, they can approach the courts. And court will interpret.
Let's take this back to Honorable Enwanta now. I beg you about Mr. Enwanta. You've heard him. You want to react to that before I ask my question? Do you want to react to what he said, Mr. Enwanta, before we throw in the question? Can you hear me now? Okay, because one of the things that
I said in law, okay. There's no proper way to do the wrong thing. Because what they have done, there's nothing in law that allows you, when you're in court, to resort to self-help. Because if they say because the House of Assembly is meeting in its old legislative chambers, that now gives them authority to try to invade, and failing to invade, they choose to rent a hall. And you call that Edo State House of Assembly. 14 members whose seats were declared vacant because he's lying. He mentioned Uyo Kaka, he mentioned Uyo Ekosoi, he mentioned Imano Kaka. These two persons were part of the 14 whose seats have been declared vacant, and they're in court. And unfortunately, he talks about withdrawal. Unfortunately for him, in the matter that validated the proclamation, it is at the Court of Appeal, the National Assembly are the appellants. They are the only ones that can withdraw. Then when you now talk of their seats that were declared vacant, the matter are twofold. First, they went to court to challenge INEC that their seats are not vacant, and the court is sitting because on vacation. They have not withdrawn that matter. Then PDP also went to court saying that since these people have failed to do their functions and their seats were declared vacant, that they are the rightful persons as first runner-up. So if matters are in court, is it proper under a democratic setting for people to take the laws into their hands? That's a big question. If they are now saying that it is the police that have authorized them, how come the police did not allow them to gain entrance to the House of Assembly? Because the Commissioner of Police resisted there. They are just trying to blackmail the Commissioner of Police. And I want to renew my call to the President to ask Boss Mustafa, who is the SGF, to decide if he's part of Buhari's government or is against Buhari's government, because he's the man behind this. Because the federal police that came to Edo, they invaded Edo, including the talks of Igbo, because this is not right in a democracy. We have a government in Edo State. We have a speaker. So these individuals are strangers as far as the law is concerned, because when they're in court, it is only the court that can decide the constitutionality or otherwise. So what they did yesterday is a Nollywood act, which can only happen in Idi Amin's Uganda. Even under Idi Amin's regime, we didn't see this kind of brazen rape on process. The deputy clerk who retired many years ago they brought, that man has even committed an act against the Legislative House's law. Because the mace that he brought, I don't know because he said it's from him, violates the law. Even the action of these 14 persons is a coup d'etat. They took over an arm of the Edo State government, contrary to Section 1 sub 2, that says you cannot do that. And Section 37 sub 2 of the Criminal Code makes that offense punishable by death. Because tomorrow, some persons can come and the National Assembly and say they met somewhere in Anambra. It's not done. This is democracy. There are rules. You must follow the rules. You cannot use basketball rules to play football.
Okay, Mr. Enwanta.
So, the
challenge here now, Mr. Enwanta, the challenge here is, I mean, there's a lot to wrap our heads around. And a lot of people are wondering, where do we go from here? Don't forget, INEC is also threatening to postpone the elections if the current trend keeps going on. I mean, we don't want violent elections in this country. And that's a big picture for a lot of people. Now, this happened yesterday, the whole drama unfold from the House of Assembly to the venue where this proceedings took place. And I recall that one of the statements made at that proceeding yesterday was that, the Commissioner of Police should clear the State Assembly for these members that we saw earlier to hold their sitting there. And the question is, what do we expect next?
I think moving forward, it is for the police to try to be neutral, because if you don't have institutions like the police, we cannot keep together the fabric of our democracy. They know too well that these people wanted to invade and they prevented an invasion. So what they went to do in a hotel or a private residence is a show of shame. It only has a place in Nollywood because the House of Assembly is still intact, the principal officers are still intact, and these persons have committed a criminal offense. If the federal government fails to do something, the Criminal Code Law of Edo State, Section 37, has been violated, and the state government will prosecute these individuals because at best they are criminals, having admitted that they attempted to take over a part of the Edo State government. It is because of the elections, as he rightly admitted, Edorors said, it's about the elections. So Oshomole wants to create crisis and because he can't do people for over a year in Abuja so that a state of emergency will be declared. And the president should realize that whatever affects a part of Nigeria affects him. He's commander-in-chief. He swore on oath on the day it was inaugurated to defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, which Edo State is part of.
Let's take this back to Mr. Edoror now. One of the things that a number of people will be wondering is, on the one hand, there is a Speaker of the House that the governor recognizes, and on the other hand is your faction of the, of the House of Assembly. So question then is, given that you have decided to begin to sit and provide, as you have said, quality legislation, how valid will that be to the governor?
Well, as a matter of fact, constitutionally...
Are you asking me a question?
The onus is on the government of Edo State to respect...
No, can you hear me now? Okay, Mr. Edoror, I was trying to find out from you. Now, generally, everyone knows that there is a Speaker of the House of Assembly in Edo State that the governor recognizes. And now there is you and your faction of the House of Assembly. You said you are in the majority. Seeing that the governor does not recognize you, how effective will your legislation or legislative activities be?
The House of Assembly is an independent institution. It is not for the governor to recognize us. It is compulsory and mandatory constitutionally for the governor to respect all our resolutions. And when laws are made by us and he refuses to recognize it, he knows the consequences. So I need him to know, and I know in no distant time, he will be advised by his advisors if they are genuine to him. There is no way minority can overrule majority. We are all members of Edo State House of Assembly, and it will interest you to know, me that is talking to you now, I'm really surprised. The governor by himself gave me ticket to contest for House of Assembly. And I refuse talking in the press since, because I just feel that I should allow things to happen naturally. You see, the truth is that they have been lying on comrade governor, or the former governor of Edo State, comrade Adam Soshomole. Adam Soshomole never participated in the selection of members to go to House of Assembly during the electoral process. I was given ticket because I was contesting for House of Rep. They called me. The text I sent to the governor thanking him is still there. They told me to step down. I stepped down. They gave me this ticket. People were already contesting. They gave me this ticket on the platter of gold. All the members in Edo Central, the governor gave. All the members in Edo North, Edo South, the governor gave. I am surprised. After giving us tickets, before you know it, he started calling us his enemy. I think the major problem, the common denominator in this crisis, is the deputy governor, who happens to be my friend formally. He's the one that is just criticizing the governor, and I am sorry.
Let's wind down this. Honorable Edoror, just one thing before we go. Now, there are those who believe that when you have a case in court and then you go ahead and carry out these actions, that is a violation of the principle of lex pendis. And they think that this is an overreach and that the courts will frown at this. What's your response before we go?
If that is true, who is saddled with the responsibility of, explaining that or determining the fact of that matter? Is it not the same court? That's why I said, if you feel from our own sense of judgment, we believe what we have done is the right thing to be done. If you have a case in court and the person you have a case with, like Yekini Diare, has come, we have settled, and they have recovered. They said the statement they made on behalf of the House of Assembly is rescinded, and as such, we are back. Our seat is not declared vacant. We have been sworn in. We are members of the House of Assembly, just as they are members.
All right, Honorable Edoror.
Just as we went to another place to have our sitting. So they are in government house. The government house now is the House of Assembly.
All right. We do thank you very much for your thoughts, but we wonder where next is the sitting, if you have any sitting, because if the Assembly is not functioning at the moment, one wonders. But we do thank you. But Mr. Enwanta, if you could just give us your quick concluding thoughts on what next for the government.
Yes.
It's hard because it's a very funny trend in our democracy, which, of course, Nigerians have risen with unison to condemn. Because of the elections in Edo, they want a state of emergency to be declared. That is the machinations of Boss Mustafa, who is supposed to be the secretary to the government of the Federation. Oshomole, who wants to control the House of Assembly, but failed. And as we move into this election, the president must activate his powers as commander-in-chief. Edo should not be thrown into a war zone. Edo has been peaceful, and I know this election will go on as planned. They know they will not win the election. That's why they are creating crisis. He has admitted that they are in court, but in one breath, he has admitted he said they have decided to take the laws into their hands.
Okay, Mr. Daze, we need to go. All right, we do thank you very much indeed. Adaze Enwanta is a public affairs advisor to Governor Obaseki. He's also a lawyer. We also did speak with Honorable Victor Edoror, who says he is elected Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. I would thank both of them for talking to us this morning.